Well, the day of a regulation and or regulator day has finally arrived. I always thought this would be a pretty cool idea to get some interaction from everybody that's kind of involved, because not every Oklahoma State fan feels the exact way. Sure, we all think there's problems, but we also see different solutions. Therefore, let's get some reactions from the people who are always invested on a daily basis. That's going to be pretty fun. All right, let's do it.
You are Locked On Oklahoma State, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma State Cowboys, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Howdy, y'all, and hello, all. Welcome back to Locked On Oklahoma State. You know it's your daily stop. You know where you can find us. We're just going to roll right into this thing here. I will say today, we're partially brought to you by Bird Dogs, which is the bee's knees of all clothing brands in the world. All righty, fellas, here we go. We'll just swing this right on through here. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Logan. Logan has been helping me out for quite some time now, just on the Twitter sphere-verse and how to figure things out. And then we have OT Tom right below me, who's been very invested in just some of the film dynamic side of things, which has been very fun to pick his brain about. And then Puglia, or you can call him Joe State, for this time, this place, this day. Fellas, thank you for watching the show. Thank you for being part of Oklahoma State Army to some degree on the social media sphere. How's everybody feeling? I know it could be, skies falling type of scenarios, but it also could be a decent chance at a revival. So, Logan, we'll start with you, buddy. What do you think about Iowa State?
I hope Gundy has learned some sort of lesson from the first 3 weeks and that he doesn't just keep giving the middle finger to the entire fan base like he did Monday afternoon.
Yes. He kind of did pull the alarms not going off and everything's fine. Well, hey Tom, Iowa State, they're not exactly in a great spot either right now. So this is either going to be a massive pillow fight or it could be a rock fight to the death. What do you think, and what do you see this game meaning for Oklahoma State?
Well, normally after hearing what kind of a train wreck Iowa State is this year, I think this is going to be a good game for us. But, reality of it, after last weekend's gut punch, right, it may actually be a pillow fight. Hopefully we slip a couple of rocks into our pillow and get the job done.
Yes, I love it. Joe Puglia, well, you spit it at us, brother. How are you feeling about Iowa State? What are the chances of getting a dub in Ames, or does it feel pretty bleak right now?
No, man, it's pretty bleak right now, but I think we'll get the dub for sure. It just depends on how soon Gundy wants to end this experiment he's doing. But I mean, that's all off him. As soon as he, picks starters and we can actually have a cohesive team, I think you'll start seeing more dubs fill the board.
All right, so I'll throw this one at anybody out here can answer this one. Do you guys expect a philosophy change in Ames, or do you guys think we'll see much of this same square peg and a round hole madness?
I think he's going to keep beating his head against the wall until someone makes him change.
Someone? Is there a someone that we think can do that? Because guys, he basically has the keys to the kingdom in Stillwater, Oklahoma, and a lot of people believe that it would take a Armageddon style of situation for him to even be in a precarious spot. Do you guys see anything changing in Iowa, Tom or Joe?
Yeah, I'll go next. I think with respect to the Iowa State game, I think we are going to see a change, particularly in the quarterback rotation. I don't think we'll see 1/3, 1/3, 1/3, right? I sliced and diced the first half tape from last weekend, and there was some stuff that was concerning. Coming out of it, I was thinking it was all the O-line's issue, but it wasn't, right? And after hearing, I don't know if the rumors are correct or not, but Iowa State had a 48-hour bug go through their locker room last week.
Yep.
I think we did as well. Rangel was hit. We heard about that. But, slowing all of our players down by half a step, that may be enough difference to see the kind of results that we saw. And it wasn't just the O-line. Some of the running backs made, I'd say not the best read. Likewise, the quarterbacks, I only made it through the first half tape, but the quarterbacks didn't necessarily make the optimal pass selection.
That's probably a very fair analysis, Joe. We'll kick it down to you, brother man. What are you feeling about Ames? Joe, we got you. You here? You alive? You there?
Yeah, can you hear me, man?
Yeah. Fire away.
I feel like I'm doubled up a little bit.
A little bit?
Yeah, I mean, James goes. I think it's just a cohesive thing, man. If you're not going to name starters on your team, I think you're going to run into the same problems. You're going to keep rotating players in and out. Quarterback's not going to be able to get cohesive with the wide receivers. I mean, the offensive line isn't going to be able to time out with the quarterback. You're going to see the same problems. You're going to see same penalties. I think what Gundy, to me, is trying to do is trying to build that cohesive unit with a larger number of people due to the transfer portal and players coming in, and the lack of time to develop those 3 stars into 4 stars like he's used to. So, personally, I think that's what his game plan is. It's what he's told us he's going to do. Is if everybody has the ability to contribute to the game, to the win, then they're going to get their time to play, and that's what you're going to see. I think that's the reason why you saw, Ollie Gordon only get 3 carries last week. Otherwise, you'd hand the guy that could run the ball.
Yeah. How ironic is it, Logan, that we could potentially be looking at a situation where oh man, there's not a lot of positivity, and some guys have to have the ball.
I don't know why. Like, I watched Dunn's press conference, and his excuse was, well, we got behind in the game, so we couldn't give Ollie the ball. And I'm like, that's not an excuse to stop running the ball. You can be behind 3 scores and still run the ball, because guess what that does? It opens up your pass game. And yes, I know our O-line sucks because we're not running the power scheme that we practiced all spring and fall. But even when he finds a hole or makes a hole and busts it for 5-6 yards, that still opens the play action pass or the deep ball, where we could have taken advantage of the 3-4 inch height advantage that we had on the cornerbacks with all our wide receivers. But we didn't want to do that. We wanted to become one-dimensional and then make up an excuse that we were behind the whole game.
One thing I'd jump in and say, we got down by 3 scores very, very quickly, right? If you look at it, they marched down the field, scored a TD. We had the very short field interception. They dropped another one, and then it was a field goal, right? Maybe I've got the order mixed up on the short field and the TD and the field goal. But then next thing you know, we're down by 3 scores, and yeah, it was pretty ugly, and they weren't backing down, right? We had to go out and take it. We weren't in a position to push them around, so that I absolutely agree with. But I will go back and say that there were a couple of the running backs didn't necessarily make the. Sorry about that. The running backs didn't necessarily make the right reads on the runs that they did have. And and then neither did the quarterbacks, right? So yeah, it was a cluster, right?
Yeah, no, I agree 1,000%. But when you get your starters aren't. Jeez, man, I'm hearing.
We hear echo too.
I'm just saying when you're practicing your ones and your twos and your threes all together, you're rotating that in practice. You're seeing who's producing out in the practice field, and you're putting those guys that are producing out on the team. Like, I think it's just going to lower the overall body of work that your team's going to produce. It's just me personally. If you got starters practicing with starters, and that's going to build your cohesiveness of your units, you're going to go out there, you're going to be able to scheme for them, you're going to be able to produce. I mean,
yeah,
correct me if I'm wrong, but that's the way it's always been done, right?
No, you're spot on. I think Gundy, you brought up a really good point on the portal and the transfers, and people coming in, being able to attract people, being able to keep the players from transferring out. Gundy's trying some things that he probably wouldn't have done in the past, and given people transfers in an opportunity, whereas they might be a clear QB2 or QB3 or RB2, RB3, and then historically wouldn't have gotten much in the way of we've got quite a bit of echo on this, but we would historically wouldn't have gotten carries until maybe second quarter change of pace type stuff. So I think Gundy was willing to potentially drop a non-conference show to try to get all this down, right? Don't know. And, we did. We dropped a non-conference game, with all this stuff going on. Issues. Maybe it's just on my side. Can you guys, Cody? I can't hear you.
I can't hear him either.
Doing all the crazy stuff. All right,
Okay.
go ahead.
Sorry about that.
No, I want to hear what.
Well, this is kind of a wild mess. I apologize for some of the technical difficulties. Logan, are you alive there, bud? No, not quite. It's all right. All right, Tom. So you and I both prefer the film side of life here. When you look at Iowa State and you look at the fact that whether it be the bug or the rotational aspects of it, what are the things that you think we could potentially exploit? Because numerically speaking, Ohio didn't have to do much to beat them.
Yeah. So, we're getting into conference play. So regardless of what, I think what we're seeing from Gundy is we're seeing coach speak, right? He comes out and he talks, and, myself as a fan, I think he's talking to me and he needs to address exactly what I want to hear, right? But the reality of it is he's talking to the fans, he's talking to the media, he's talking to the players, he's talking to transfers, right? Coming in. He's trying to touch on all the right stuff without offending anybody, if you will. And it's a tough scenario for him. And sorry about that. The echo was a little distracting. I suspect what we'll see is he's going to start settling in on his starting, his standard depth chart, QB1, QB2, and I've got thoughts on QB1, QB2, QB3. I think QB3 is not going to be seeing much playing time, right? And then the running backs, we're going to need all three. We'll probably need Sessi as well before the season's over. He may try to save his red shirt, so we may not see him until absolutely necessary. Plus, also he gets, he gets some time to, get himself physically ready if we save him until later in the season. And by the way, we saw that with Ollie last year, right? He played quite a bit as a true freshman, but most of it was later in the season, even though there was no intention to redshirt him. Yeah. So I think we're going to see our standard offense. I actually don't think we have many problems on defense other than, the blown assignment, guys getting out of step. And if the bug did go through the team last week, I don't know who had it. I don't know who might be a half step slow, right? But that half step, that might explain a lot of the stuff, right? Instead of trying to look at, oh my gosh, Gundy is, taking the Cowboy train off the edge of a cliff.
Yeah, man.
He's been doing this a long time, and he hasn't done that yet, right? No matter how often we claim he is, he's not done that. His track record just doesn't indicate, a train over the blown out bridge type stuff, right? Last season was by far the worst, right? I want it fixed, but he's got his eye
right. Yeah, man, it's been obviously a trying time. And you're right. He hasn't yet, but he's definitely teeter-tottering right there on that ledge. Last year, I think, we saw some of the things in the offseason that created some obstacles. We were under the assumption that they were going to be able to kind of get corrected. We shall see if that's the case. And I think Iowa State is going to be a good representation of what the rest of the season could potentially look like. Logan, are you in here yet, bub?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. There you go. And you're not echoey. This is good.
I moved out. I moved out to my car. I don't know what inside, or maybe it was my earbuds, but I moved out to the car.
Well, your car sounds pretty wonderful, buddy. So you can kind of help kick us in when we get into option number 3 here. But real quick, I kind of want to get your take on the rotation.
Like a quarterback or just in general?
Just in general. What positions do you see it a necessity, and what positions do you think maybe we could just cut the crap out?
I think we're deep enough at like wide receiver and DB and D lineman that it makes sense to rotate guys. But I wasn't even a fan of the 2 quarterback system back when J.W. Walsh and Clint Shelf were here. It was just annoying. Pick a quarterback and go with it. If he sucks, pick another one. But don't do this whole 3 quarterback system. And if you're going to do it, why not give each one of them a full game?
Man, you guys know kind of my feelings on that as well. And you sent me something earlier with the sports animal. And, I agree with Traber. I don't say that often, but, Traber was talking about, obviously, it appears as though Garrett seems to be the logical choice for this particular game. What happens with it? Who knows? To address some of the players transferring stuff, I'll say, logically, obviously some people aren't going to be super happy, right? There's nobody, parent, staff, player, coach, recruiter, high school coach, nobody's happy with what's happening right now. From the offensive side of the ball, there are some players that are Waiting to see what the coaches bring forth for this game. I'll put that. Defensively, I think we're fine. Defensively, we don't have a lot to worry about. But yeah, man, Jim Traber talked about it. There are rumors that there's some players that if Iowa State goes super bad, might just exit early. And if you play offense, it's going to be hard to blame them, right?
The only thing is, that could happen. But, if a player quits their team in the middle of the season, it's not a good look for the player themselves. I mean, they may not be happy with the coaching, right? But if you just throw in the towel and say, hey, I'm going to hang out until the next portal window opens, I mean, really? If anything, the guys need to get tape. And Gundy hit that in his last, in the last press conference. He said, one thing is the scouts, they evaluate you based on the plays that you're in.
Yeah.
Right. And so if you do well in the plays that you're in, that's what they have tape on, and that's what they evaluate. Right.
Right.
And so, if you opted out of any of the plays, that's not a good look for the players, right, themselves.
I was talking to somebody about that earlier. The only way I see somebody opting out now is if, like, Jabbar Muhammad, like Washington comes to him, or USC or Oregon or Michigan or whatever, and is like, hey, we'll pay you this much next year, but we don't want you getting hurt. So then they're like, okay, I've got my next school. I've got the bag that I wanted. So why not just sit out and not risk injury, and then in December leave?
If they wrote any of that down, that's got to be a violation, right? They've got these portal windows lined up, and so if the window opens, yeah, you can throw your name. The way it's supposed to work, which we all know it's not, but the way it's supposed to work is the window opens, you put your name in the hopper, right, and then everybody goes shopping and they pull you out of the hopper. We all know there are conversations going on beforehand, but if they wrote any of that stuff down, that somebody was actively poaching players before the window opened, that'd be a bad look on the program. It'd be a horrible look on the players. And,
it happened with A&M.
Unfortunately, it does happen. There's third-party guys out there that are basically called headhunters. I unfortunately know none of them. But yeah, there's guys that get paid to kind of, help guys find other situations, and it's not going to go anywhere. It's happening in the 80s, 90s. It ain't never going to change.
Right.
There's just different ways around it. But all right, guys, before we skedaddle, Logan, hopefully you're not crazy echoing anymore, because I would like to. Oh, no, you're grounded. You get yourself ungrounded. All right, Tom, I'll go ahead and ask you real quick, bud. In a perfect world, if something did go crazy, then what would be your ideal candidates to come to Stillwater, whether it be head coach, coordinator, whatever, you name it? Fire away.
Well, just real quickly, Strum and Weiberg just bet big. They double, triple down on Gundy. So we can be all concerned about it, but he ain't going anywhere, right? I've seen people postulate a handful of different candidates. Zach Robinson, I don't know if he's ready for an offensive coordinator position. If we did have to, I love having Casey Dunn as our wide receivers coach. I mean, the guy delivers 3 Biletnikovs, another Biletnikov finalist. That's unheard of in the coaching business. But if we did need a wide receiver coach, Rashawn Woods seems to be on a really cool trajectory, right? Maybe him. Offensive line, I don't have any idea. That's actually the most critical.
You don't want to find a way to bring old Josh Henson home?
He played really well for us, right? So
he coached well too. I think he would require an OC position, and I'd prefer to give that to maybe a Zach Robinson, definitely a Marcus Arroyo type. Logan, if you got yourself out of timeout, nope. Man, you poor guy. I'll tell you, Willie Fritz over at Tulane is somebody that should be on everybody's list to talk to immediately. I think you could probably say the same for Jeff Traylor at UTSA. I don't know how likely it is, but I would love if we could find a way to go steal Lance Leipold. There's a lot of different levels we could go to in a coaching search. But the beauty of it is Oklahoma State, I do think, is big enough that if we ever did get to that area, that we'd be in a pretty good spot. And I hate to have Captain Echo Pants not in here because I know this was what he was excited to talk about. Go, Logan. Nope, don't go. Okay. Well, buddy, did any of those names I throw out there, or did I miss a few names? Fire away.
So the question I've got is, Gundy went off script with Dunn, a wide receivers coach, as the offensive coordinator. And he was always adamant he wants a quarterback who was a quarterback's coach as his offensive coordinator, right? Always. And he went off script on that. And, the one time he's done it, it's been okay, but not great. Is he going to bring in if we did get a new OC, would he bring in a quarterback coach, OC? I think he probably would go back to that trend.
So Logan just messaged. He doesn't know what's going on with the reverb issue, but he said Mike Elko and Brian Hartline. I like Mike Elko. I don't know what he's making. I don't know what he's making right now, but I don't want to keep getting burned. We went that way to get one guy, but you know what? I guess he did stay a while, and that's part of the thing you have to take into consideration nowadays. Is if you get an alumni guy like a Gundy, right, like a Zach Robinson. I know Zach's not quite ready, but that type of guy, then yeah, maybe you get another decade, 12-year, 15-year, 20-year career out of a dude. Or do you go with somebody like Mike Elko or Brian Hartline that neither one of them would have enough ties or care to have enough ties to make Oklahoma State a 20-year job, likely? But are we at a place that if this thing goes completely sideways and we only win 2, 3, 4 more games, that becomes a part of the conversation? Are we okay now with a 3, 4-year, 5-year coach?
If it brings success in terms of like multiple Big 12 titles and like recruiting better players, I think the fan base will be happy with it. There'll be that section that's all pissy that we fired Gundy or whatever. But at some point, we've got to bite the bullet and move on.
Eventually, yes, and it does appear as though a decent amount of the fan base is starting to at least entertain the idea that okay, maybe we are approaching the last leg of the Gundy train if we can't get it turned around. All right, Tom. Well, you give us the closing thought here, buddy. What do you think? What do you think about the state of the Cowboys, and are we going to be fine?
Yeah, well, I'm thinking, 31-17 with Iowa State. So yeah, I think we're going to be okay, right?
I like it. Logan, you got the same score?
I would like to be as optimistic as him, but I'll say 21-18.
Fair enough. All righty, guys. Well, if we're going to do that, then I've got to throw in, I'll say 28-17. All right, guys, I appreciate you. Well, I'll have to make something right here for Puglia Joe didn't have the opportunity, but until next time, God bless. Go Pokes.
Thank you,
Have a good
Coach.
night, guys. Go Pokes.
Cheers.